Fiscal crunch time. August 25th, 2016. Not really sure where to begin here. There's a lot of things happening as the Olympic Games have come to a close. And once again, we bring up the phrase of the looky-loo, where all eyes are turned one way while they do the other thing. If you notice, as soon as the games have ended on last weekend, we've got this tragic earthquake that took place 2 days prior, Wednesday, the 23rd of August, where there are a few hundred people that are either dead or submerged under rubble that they're still digging through trying to find them. The other piece, politically in the United States, we've got Donald Trump canceling events. I would hate to say that all of these threats of an assassination attempt have gotten to him. Mind you, last week the guy scaled Trump Tower in New York with no rope, with no claws, no climbing claws or anything like that. Barehanded, I saw a video of it, very agile young man. But of course the New York Police Department picked him up and took him away. Hillary Clinton, citing health concerns. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to play out as well, but it's a lot of things. We've got these American athletes, the swimmers, who thought it was something entertaining to trump up, no pun intended, to trump up the fact that they were held, accosted at gunpoint, which was all a facetious lie, which cost Rand Lochte a couple $1 million in sponsorship, Nike and a few others. On the other side of this, I'm looking at charts and paperwork. Once again, all of the links and everything that I'm saying will be attached to the podcast. So you are urged to do your own homework and fact check everything that I'm saying. Prove me wrong. It's going to be really hard for you to do. The headline that I woke up to this morning was 4 more mega banks join the anti-dollar alliance. There has been a consortium of 15 banks that signed up to implement a new financial technology to clear and settle international financial transactions. Now, mind you, with the U.S. dollar being the world reserve currency, every dollar amount that we remit to someone else, Western Union, MoneyGram, anything that we do, it must clear first with either a bank transfer or a wire from one of these wire services. It has to first clear in the United States. And people have had enough of that. Unfortunately, this is letting us know that the rest of the international world are getting sick and tired of having to go through a United States bank to clear all of their business, especially if none of the parties are doing business with an American entity or a financial structure. Takes me back to 2014. I had an account at Paribas, BNP Paribas Bank. And it was, we actually ran into an obstacle here because the French bank was fined $9 billion because they were doing business with a country that the United States didn't like, which was crazy. The two countries were Cuba and Iran. Now, mind you, in France, it's not illegal to do business with or send money to a party in Cuba or in Iran, but the United States didn't like the transaction. They didn't like to send money to Cuba, which is crazy. Because France had no part of anything, any ill-gotten gains or any animosity toward the United States, but the United States wanted to fine them $9 billion. Which, of course, the French bank, Paribas, paid because they violated the U.S. law. On the flip side of that, this is a $9 billion hurt, as opposed to being kicked out of the U.S. banking system, which is what Paribas used to remit transfers back and forth from all Patty Bus account holders to the states or otherwise, they can afford to lose the affiliation with the United States banking system. Because, like I said before at the beginning of the podcast, the U.S. dollar is and was at the time the world reserve currency. Moving on to the next, the list of those banks actually will make you shiver a little bit. Because one of those banks is actually also a United States bank, Deutsche Bank, the German Federal Bank, UBS from Switzerland, Santander from Spain, Bank of New York Mellon is another of the banks to join. These are the four of the world's largest banks that joined in to a new financial settlement protocol. It's going to be built on blockchain technology. Now, blockchain, if you are familiar with it, we have been speaking about it on and off over the last podcast. Think Bitcoin, which actually I'll discuss in the very next podcast with you. That is something else too that actually is proven to be a thorn in my side. There are a lot of other situations going, and they're actually calling this the utility settlement coin. USC is one of the words that came across my screen a few times today and yesterday. Utility settlement coin. Very funny. Very on point with what it is, but it's not very attractive, which is ridiculous in and of itself. More news today. Dr. Doom, Mark Faber, went on television and said that the global balance of all economic power has shifted notably. And he actually gave a chart, which I will also give to you as well. He stated that now the emerging and developing economies account for almost 60% of global gross domestic product. What does that mean? This means that what we used to call emerging and developing economies, think East, China, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Brunei, have actually taken control, and they are gobbling up, and they account for almost 60% of all global domestic product. That means what is imported and exported, global domestic product, what are they producing? If over half of the entire planet is coming from one area of the world, this is something we need to pay attention to. Something we need to take a deep look at, a close look at. To look at our charts, to look at where we're investing our money, because these people are not going to stop. Because everybody's concerned with the bottom line. Everybody's concerned with the bottom line. And if you don't know what the bottom line is, I'm sorry. I would suggest you subscribe to the podcast and you go back and look at everything that you have missed. The very next podcast I will dive into and explain the whole situation with the Bitcoin and the blockchain technology that I only mentioned briefly. Of this global gross domestic product, China occupies the most important space right now in the current economic landscape. The entire country embraced this infrastructure growth model to catapult itself into a high growth phase, following the example set by Japan earlier. Right now, Japan is bankrupt, based on their financial the prime minister and everything, the Abenomics that they adopted. They've been operating at a negative interest rate for the last 2 years. And what they're calling the Asian tiger economies of South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, going back to the 60s and 70s. Now, mind you, China has become the driver of substantial economic activity for all of the other quote-unquote emerging market countries, especially in Asia and Africa. The Import-Export Bank of China overtook the World Bank in 2011 as the biggest lender to sub-Saharan Africa. And China right now is the leading financier of all infrastructure products on the entire African continent. Make sure you check these links on me so that you know exactly what I'm saying to be true. Brace yourself for the next. Tourism spending is what proved to be the straw of hay that broke the camel's back. The tourism spending has been between China and the other countries. Think about this. The Southeast Asian countries stick together. People are flying from China back and forth to the Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam. Some people, friend of mine actually, I helped him just get to China. He's in Shenzhen. He's going back and forth to Hong Kong every other week. Those tourist dollars that are actually into this report and on this chart fall in line with what he's doing. And the numbers are coming from the World Travel and Tourism Council, which I will also share with you on this podcast. Please check it out for yourself. China's increased travel spending boosted economic activity in other countries in the region. Like I said, China, Japan, Korea, North and South, Vietnam, Hong Kong, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand. All of these fall in line with the ASEAN countries, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. China's increased travel spending boosted economic activity in all of the other countries in the region, including a mini boom, quote unquote, in money spent by foreign visitors. We're not talking about Americans that are going all the way over there. We're talking about people from the other countries in the area. Dr. Doom, also in another interview he gave a few days ago, he estimated that China contributed around 130 million outbound tourists each year into the global economy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to not tighten our belts up, but time to take a close look at following the money trail. That's where we'll find out more about what's going on and how we need to act moving forwardly. Don't forget, banks in China don't write off bad loans like they do in the United States or in Europe. Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, BNP Paribas, or these others, the 11 banks that failed the stress test in Italy. Banks don't write off bad loans there. Where are you investing your money? Are you investing your money? This brings to point a question I was asked yesterday. How can I get ready? And when is the time going to be when all of this happens? I said my response was, if you need to ask me what to do when you get ready, that tells me you haven't even started. Thank you so much for your time and listening to this podcast. Thank you for subscribing. Please like, comment, and subscribe so that you don't miss what's coming next. I'm going to keep it hot as we wind down in an election year. There's a lot more coming, and I will give a lot more to you. Be ready. Have a plan, and be ready to act.